Hello, everyone. Today, I really wanted to speak to you about overcoming food addiction and emotional eating. It is something that I think many people struggle with, but I would say it even speaks to something even larger in our society that one, we live in an environment that feeds food addiction. We live in a world that is full of stress and go, 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 that we don't have time to sit down and maybe fully comprehend that we're dealing with stress, and we turn to the one thing that's very readily available and will feed that part of our physical being that will release dopamine to make us feel better, right? So if we eat these highly ultimate processed foods, we get into the cycle not only physically but mentally. And the emotional eating component can come out of many places. Like I said, I've dealt with thousands of patients over the years, and the one thing that I do know is that people not necessarily unknowingly, but they create these habits that they're not even aware of as a habit, right? So whether they're eating from boredom or stress or emotional trauma that they're dealing with, and eating will, you know, push back the memory or the trigger of the emotional response that they may have had in the past. um, there's this piece to them that's really hard, that they may have tried to lose weight or stop eating certain foods and felt a tension, and it's really hard, right? And then they will see themselves as failures, and then there's shame and guilt. And I really wanted to help people understand that you can use this tool for not just overeating and food addiction, but this is where I'm coming from as a physician, where I see people who have really struggled, and now we're dealing with the consequences of eating unhealthily. Diabetes, obesity, hypertension, high cholesterol, things like that, sleep apnea, and things that not only decrease the quality of life but also shorten your lifespan. So my hope by me doing these videos and everything I'm doing is to share with you some tools that you can use in your own life and move the needle and the compass. So let's say that you're going down the path, and we move just a quarter of a degree or a degree. If you look at the trajectory over time, so straight up, if you stay the same path, but if we go just a little bit, so here's the original decision. If we change our decision just by degree, just our one small little thing, if you look over time, you see how the journey changes, right? The path can be dramatic. So, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And so hope I can you see that. That's the power, I think, of what I'm about to share with you. And yeah, so let me tell you what I've come up with. And it's I think work by other people, but I'm just kind of put my own spin on this. And the first thing is understanding that there's no one's fault, right? We live in a world that is dealing with constant stress, that we're always being pulled for our attention. We are not living in the place that we did 500, 1,000 years ago, where the first and foremost thoughts were, how do I get food on the table? Were they growing their food, working? I mean, we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have jobs sending us emails, and people just couldn't reach out and grab us at any time from around the world, right? There wasn't news programs that are shouting these headlines that cause stress, that pull us in to look at this and get us even more worked up and thinking even worse thoughts, right? And so, I think, and people move around, so their community structures have disintegrated, right? That we're no longer building those lifelong relationships that were there for support in the past. So I think this is where it becomes, you need to be really thinking about, this is where we are, but what can we do to start building back different tool set, because we're living in a different time, in a different environment. And so first of all, the acronym I want you to remember is BRAVE, right? And so you're going to be brave in moving forward with a different way of dealing with food addiction or the emotional eating habit. And the first thing is that we need to understand, what is a habit? A habit is a trigger or a prompt. It could be a thought, it could be an emotion, it could be a circumstance, it could be a life a regular thing like an email. It could be a time of day. It could be a person. A trigger or a prompt then is the behavior. The behavior could be the eating. The behavior could be shopping. The behavior could be drinking, cigarette smoking. It doesn't matter what the behavior is. Then we have the reward. The reward feeds back into the habit because the only reason a habit exists is because there's a reward. You're avoiding something or something is looking better, right? So it's positive feedback loop, right? That we keep on doing something because it feels good, or we're doing this because we're avoiding something that's negative. So those are the two pieces that you can keep on. You also have neutral habits. So if there's not any necessarily negative benefit, but you see, it's what we thought, that's a neutral, that's fine. But these positive and negative reinforcements, the other thing to keep in mind is that every behavior has three things that are required. So when you look at BJ Fogg's model of behavior, what you will see is the three things that behavior requires are: one, motivation; two is a prompt; and three is the ability to do it. Let's take something very simple. For example, you got to go to the bathroom. It's something that we've all done every day, unless you're in special circumstances like dialysis. So let's say that, let's look at the behavior model. So remember, motivation, prompt, and ability. One, what is your motivation? Well, the prompt was that the bladder is saying I'm full. The motivation is, geez, I don't want to pee in my pants. And three, the ability is, I got toilet down the hall, or if you're outside camping, you go under the next tree. So those are the three things, right? So you have the behavior habit loop, because what I'm going to be talking about is disrupting the habit loop, and also how to disintegrate the reward, which will help break the emotional, it'll break the habit neural circuitry that's going on in our brain. It's hard to do this because I usually have some kind of drawing or something. So I'm doing a lot of finger motions here. So when I'm speaking of habit loop and behavior, you understand what I'm actually referring to. So, okay, now we got the basics out of the way. First of all, when you think about the BRAVE acronym, for me, this really is a matter of acknowledging a craving, but the B part would be breathe and acknowledge. And what that's doing is, so if we're thinking about it, let's say that we have this emotional need to eat something because, one, we're in the grocery store and something smells good, or we had an emotional email or a stressful email, or we have something coming up and we're worried about it. The first thing we need to do is get out of the reaction and living in the future, or thinking about the future of what it's going to be, what this is, or dealing with some emotional response or thought that's coming in our past, and ground ourselves in this present moment. Because the only time that you can actually do something is in the present moment. And so one way to get us into that moment and tell our brains, okay, I'm here now, I'm not there, is breathe, right? So breathe and acknowledge, and actually take a breath, right? So you're breathing and acknowledging. What this does is allows you to recognize a craving without judgment, and you pause to take a breath, and that really brings you back in, because when you're paying attention to something, it feeds it, right? So if you're paying attention to the craving, guess what? You're fueling it. You're giving it more energy. So the tidal wave of the craving gets stronger. And so what we're going to do is pull the attention down, pull it into our breathing, because when you are paying attention to your breathing, guess what? You've actually become present in this moment. So breathe and acknowledge. Recognize a craving without judgment. Pause to take a breath, and bringing awareness to the present moment. Okay. Number two, or R, you're going to return to the now, right? So you use your breath and senses to anchor yourself in the current moment and reducing the intensity of the craving. So when you think about this, it's really about, first you did that first breath and you acknowledged, okay, I see that. I'm going to take a breath. But now what we're going to do is continue breathing and breathing into the now. So you can do this by your breath. You can do it visually. You can do a few different things. You can do finger breathing, like breathe in and out. You can do 4-7-8 breathing, where you breathe in over 4, you hold your breath for 7 seconds and breathe out over 8. You could do also what I call gratitude grounding, or becoming present with the 5 senses. And if you don't want to do 5, you could do 3. With something now in my present moment that I'm grateful for, that I can see. I see this technology that's allowing me to speak to you. I'm thankful for that. Hearing, I am thankful for hearing the birds outside, or I'm thankful for my dog that sighs, even though she wants out of her cage because she just had surgery. Not her cage, but her confined space. Um, Maybe it's also feeling. I can feel my breath. I can feel my heart. I'm thankful for that. So there's that piece is there for whatever breathing exercise works for you. So remember, that's bringing ourselves back into the now. So breathe and acknowledge, and then return to the now. Okay. Next is accept and observe. So that's the A. So you're going to accept the craving, right? You're not going to fight it, right? Because the more you fight it, the you're feeding it. And then the next thing is you're going to accept the craving as just a normal experience. People get them all the time. You're going to observe it. Okay, I feel it. I see it, sense it in my body. Observe it without judgment, right? And then detach from the immediacy of the sensation. And by doing that, basically what I'm saying is you're going to try to observe the craving as if you were an outsider looking in, right? You're going to notice where you're feeling the craving in your body and what emotions are attached to it. But don't judge the sensations or emotions are good or bad. Just observe. Just like if you were to have a thought of, I'm a pink elephant. Well, you're not going to emotionally respond to that, but you can just watch it, observe it, go in and out, right? Let it flow through you instead of trying to stop it, trying to fight it. Let it flow through you. If you want to feel like you're an invisible superhero and you feel that craving, you're just letting it slide through. It doesn't mean that it won't be uncomfortable and that you won't feel some urgency or something feeling tight, but that's where the breathing comes in. You're engaging in your parasympathetic nervous system, which allows you to take that deep breath and relax, slows down the heart rate. You're bringing your thinking mind online. You're disengaging the mindlessness. You're becoming mindful. So that's really, really important to remove that emotion. And just the act that you're being curious and acknowledging it, this is building a different reward of the mindfulness piece. So you're really building a new habit of being mindful about your habits. So let's go over again. B is breathe and acknowledge. R is return to the now. A is accept and observe. Okay. V is validate and let go. So you acknowledge your feelings and remind yourself that cravings are temporary. Yes, allowing them to pass without acting on them. So I want you to know there are two things that we can count on in this world that most every human would agree with. Is one, that the only thing that we can really count on is change. So change is the one constant in our life, and that the only moment that we can ever act on is your current moment, right? We can accept that and acknowledge that. That's going to make life much easier, right? We embrace change. We know it's coming. We have this one moment that's continually changing, and we can accept that, knowing that the only thing we can do is right now. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. It doesn't mean you have to have all the perfect action, but just know that it means there's no stress in trying to figure out what that looks like in the next minute or 2 minutes or hour or tomorrow, or what you did yesterday and that you feel guilty about or whatever. And yesterday was perfect and now you're not. It's just reflecting into today. I'm sitting in front of the bakery. There's a Cinnabon calling my name. I've gone through this. I accept that there's a craving. And I can, after doing that, right, where you've acknowledged your feelings, you remind yourself that the cravings are temporary, you can allow them to pass. And then you can decide whether you want to engage in the activity or not. Do you want to eat it or not? But if you do this, it's going to be with a different light, right? You're going to be mindful of it. And maybe you do, and maybe you just take a few bites and you're like, man, this isn't actually what I was thinking. Because guess what? That craving has subsided. So the reason that you're eating that food has already passed. So there's going to be a different quality about consuming that food right now. You're not trying to make the craving go away by consuming it. What you're doing is you're now past it, like the craving's already subsiding. The wave is coming in. Now you're just kind of eating it just out of like, well, maybe I'll like it. But you have your thinking mind cap on. I feel like you're going to see some different emotions, some different thoughts, some different awareness of what's going on. You're becoming mindful of these habits. So, excuse me, with this, then I want you to also think E is engage elsewhere and reflect. So we had breathe and acknowledge, return to the now through more breathing techniques, accept and observe. You're going to validate and let it go, right? You validate it was here and allow it to pass. E is engage elsewhere and reflect. So you're going to redirect your attention to a different activity or practice gratitude. You can say, I'm thankful that I'm aware of this. I'm thankful that I'm building this mindfulness muscle. You can say, you can go back to the senses and say, I'm thankful for what I'm seeing. I'm thankful for what I'm hearing. I'm thankful for what I'm smelling or not. You can say, I'm thankful for feeling my feet on the ground. Whatever it is, maybe you're holding your child's hand and you're thankful for your child. You're thankful for your loved ones. Whatever that is for you, in that moment that you can see, feel, touch, smell, hear, because that is with you in that moment. And the next thing is just reflect on your experience and use it as a learning opportunity, whether you choose to eat or not, right? And there's no judgment whether you choose to or not. The fact is that you engaged your mindfulness, this special wisdom that you have. Each of us has this inner wisdom of knowing inherently what we need. And by engaging in that and understanding that you have a choice, so many people don't feel they understand they actually have a choice because their mind is built these habits that we act out of automaticity, right? We're just reacting, we're just responding without thinking. It's like driving a car and you don't remember how you got from point A to B. It's become such an automatic thing that you do. By understanding that you have a choice, that is huge. And now you're bringing down out of that habit loop. Remember the prompt, the trigger, the behavior, and the reward. You're dismantling the reward. By getting rid of the reward, the entire habit loop of that particular thing just starts to dissolve and it collapses upon itself because the reward is what's holding it up. Because why do something if your brain doesn't think it's going to get a reward? Why does it do it? Right? So that's the piece here. But then a really important thing as well is reflecting, looking on your experience and asking yourself, what can I learn from this? Maybe it's like, one, that you have the power to make a different choice, right? Maybe it's, I will go to a different grocery store that doesn't have such an amazing smelling bakery. You're going to make different choices. Maybe it's different actions so you don't get the prompt. Maybe it's making that behavior harder to do, right? So let's say that you have a behavior of wanting to eat a chocolate chip cookie when you're watching a TV show. Okay, so the prompt is the TV show, the behavior is eating the chocolate chip cookie, and the reward is, well, it's high fat, high sugar, and hits the dopamine circuit. And so there's that. Now that piece to this is because we're eating, we're not hungry, right? We know this is going to probably be a problem. If you're dealing with any chronic disease, it's just fueling the chronic disease. So what we want to think about is like when you're sitting there and you're eating this cookie, what's interesting is that you can make it harder to eat the cookie by not having the cookies in the house. So now we're taking the behavior model, the behavior, motivation, and ability, and we're making it harder to do. So if you don't bring the cookie into your environment, you've made that piece of the variable really hard to do. So you're less likely to engage in the behavior. So you can also look at it that way. You can literally be the architect of your own behavior, of your own situation, your life circumstances, by thinking about it almost like a scientist, if that works better for you. So let me go over them one last time. It's brave, B, breathe and acknowledge. R, return to the now, returning with more breathing. Accept and observe. You're accepting that this happens. You're observing it, looking inward in your body, how you're feeling. You validate it and you let go. You let it flow right through you and engage elsewhere, and preferably even gratitude, because that alone is going to be dopamine driving. And then reflect, because now it's not a circumstance. Even if you chose to eat it or not, you're just using that as a learning opportunity. And so we're going to take the emotion out of it and just respond in that way. So, all right. I hope this was helpful, and hopefully you can build your mindfulness muscle by utilizing this. And hey, everyone, Boomer and Beyond Wellness, hello. Someone said hello from Fort Lauderdale, I'm guessing Lakes or Lauderdale Lakes. Nice to meet you. But yeah, so, leave comments below. Tell me if you think this would be helpful. I'm coming up with a psychology of weight loss course that will be coming out soon. This will be part of it. There's going to be 12 weeks. It'll be daily journals. It'll be monthly coaching with myself, live with whoever would like to join. And really think this could be quite powerful for everyone. So, um, and yeah, so I'm thankful for you being here. Again, I just want to always share with anyone who spends time with me that you're giving me your most precious asset, which is time. And so I'm giving back to you. I want to send you my joy, love, and peace and abundance in your life. And know that I truly mean that. And I will continue to work on bringing you some more tidbits, hopefully helpful, to make your life better and everything else. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you, and have a good rest of your day.